Hi, welcome to KBTime. I'm your host, Kabir. On this edition, we're going to look back at the radio show Fresh Air. Not the daily interview show with Terry Gross, but the music show that started airing on WKSU in 1971. Back then, FM was pretty new, NPR was really new, but WKSU was already over 20 years old. WKSU went on the air October 2nd, 1950. And in the 1970s, overnight, they gave students free rein to play music that you'd pretty much hear nowhere else on the radio dial. Many talented individuals, as you can see, worked on the show throughout its existence of about 10 years. Tonight I'm going to speak with just one of them, Jeff Wootton, who's the keeper of the Fresh Air archive and has written an oral history about WKSU's Fresh Air.
I was interested in getting into broadcasting. That was my major, and they had a radio station that you could get involved in, and all you needed was a third-class FCC license, and then you could, actually work at a real FM radio station. Well, that was pretty enticing right then and there. Sure. And the major program that was had a lot of student involvement was this program that happened after midnight called Fresh Air.
Fresh Air will take you on a journey through the spirits of the night. Fresh Air is progressive music on WKSU FM.
I started listening to it at night and found out that, oh gee, I've heard some of this music before. Back in my earlier days of listening to WHK-FM in 1968, and which WHK-FM turned into WMMS, and a lot of those early days were very much different from anything that's been going on now, obviously, but it was a lot more creative musically.
Right. Even though, and you point this out in the book, by, say, 1971, 72, on the commercial side, that had sort of faded out, but on public radio, you could still do that. A show like Fresh Air, when you got there in 75 or so, was taking that tradition that really wasn't on commercial radio even anymore. It had died out, right? It had gone pretty much AOR, album-oriented.
Sure,
rock.
Right. But with non-commercial radio, there was a whole nother reason to be on. Our intent on Fresh Air was to play less of the commercial artists and play more of the music that was not getting any airplay. With WMMS, everybody knows the background of that. They were a blowtorch as far as FM broadcasting was concerned. Sure. For more than a decade. So why would you tune in to just hear more of the same? So we had a unique niche there right from the get-go to expose artists that were not getting any kind of airplay. And for the most part, it was European, a lot of European artists, a lot of stuff that had been aired on WMMS, but they had dropped these artists in favor for more, commercial hit kind of stuff. So,
and it seems like even if they played those artists, they wouldn't play them all these acts in the same set. And the reason I bring that up is in the book there is a handwritten sheet by you in your notebook from about 41 years ago, Valentine's Day of '76. And here's some of the artists in one show that you were playing. There was Donovan, who you didn't hear a lot on the radio by the mid-'70s. Miles Davis, who you certainly wouldn't hear with Donovan in the same set. Kenny Rankin, Cold Blood, Kraftwerk, and a Fresh Air favorite, John Martin. So all of that weaved together, this is the music I like and this is what I think people need to be exposed to? Or how did that all come together?
Well, in the earlier days, 76 or so, I would say, that was about the midpoint or so of Fresh Air. The shows were always put together by the DJ ahead of time. Right. There wasn't any playlist that you had to subscribe to or anything. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to play a hit here and a whatever. It was totally free form, and it was up to you to really put together a good show. And as long as you were concentrating on trying to expose music that just sounded good to the ear and presented in some sort of an interesting way, that's about the only, area that you needed to concentrate on. If you were really a fan of the Beatles or the Who or whatever, your job was to stay away from those artists. Okay? The idea was not to play just stuff that you liked. It was to try to generate an atmosphere and take the listeners on a journey through different forms of music. And the key there, the hook, to keep people interested was to make the music flow seamlessly from one piece of music to another. If you could take it through multiple forms of music, multiple styles, electronic music, jazz, traditional, Irish music or whatever, but if you could branch through all these, you could take people on a journey that they would never have considered picking up an Irish fiddle tune, record and putting that on, and listen to it. But if you were into, say, Tangerine Dream, electronic music, and then, a couple of pieces later, all of a sudden you're listening to some Irish fiddler doing something. But if it's done in a way that kind of creeps up on you, and then by the time you realize, this is an Irish fiddle, it's changed to some jazz piece or something. Okay? So for a casual listener, Fresh Air was horrible. Because if you just tuned it in and just, that's it, forget that. It was a tune-out instantly, okay? But for those who tuned in and would give it 20 minutes or so, all of a sudden you would be exposed to all kinds of different sounds.
Yeah, it's amazing. And when you got there, you would transition in the late evening. Was it Out of All Things Considered or News? What came before Fresh Air typically? A
program called Exploration Jazz, generally, which was avant-garde jazz, very esoteric, real far away kind of art. It's like the next generation past bebop. Kind of thing.
It's like Archie Shepp.
Yeah, Archie Shepp or
Roland Kirk, something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Exploration Jazz takes you on a journey down the new avenues of jazz. Your Explo host will guide you through the many new developments that are taking place in today's jazz scene. Not only will you cruise down the main avenues of modern jazz, but you'll often sidetrack onto the back alleys with the weekly features. Join the adventurers on Exploration Jazz every Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday night at 10:30 here on WKSU in Kent.
So you go from that to this sort of eclectic mix, and then at the end of your shift, how would you come down from that? And also, not for yourself, but for the listener, because they're about to be...
We signed off.
Oh, so you just went off the air. Okay.
Yeah, the show signed off at 2:30 or 3 in the morning.
Well, sometimes you go past that, though, I understand.
Well, we pushed to get the station to go 24 hours after we had established ourselves a little bit better. And indeed we did. That didn't happen until 79 or so, something like that. But yeah, we would play sign-off card and say bye. And sometimes you thought, well, I played the sign-off card, but I've still got a little more music in me.
Yeah, why not?
So you keep going.
Right.
And you get a couple of calls, and then chief engineer come down on your neck. What's all this? You didn't sign off.
Crazy kids.
Yeah.
So in doing that, in the signing off, whether you stayed on or not, because there's photos in the book of you, and there's the board and turntables and tape decks and everything, and not a single digital device, obviously, in the building.
And what's digital?
And see, exactly, that's what I say. So how would you figure? Oh, it's getting close to 2:30. Was there a stock piece that you would put on and back time, or you would just it's 2:30?
No.
No.
Well, you'd kind of have an idea as to how things were going to be lining up in advance, but there wasn't like a clock that said, "Oh, you can't go 1 second past."
Okay.
You know, there wasn't anything like that. But basically, we would sign off at 2:30, or later on, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and then if it was 3:05, nobody was going to.
Yeah. Why not?
Nobody was going to care.
We do the same thing here. So when you're weaving together all these records, I know also there were interviews. Genesis, and I'm trying to think who else in the book. You talk about Patti Smith, sort of. You got an interview almost.
Well, it wasn't me, but
It wasn't you, but the show. And then Bill Bruford from Yes, who was not happy about something.
no, he wasn't happy with my question.
No, so talk about that. A, how you would set these up, being sort of a small station.
Well,
and B, how you'd weave it in.
We started interviewing artists. We kind of wanted to, just sort of enhance the program, and that turned into a program in its own. It was called the Industrial Wasteland. Okay, what the hell is that?
Governor Rhodes.
Why would you call an interview program the Industrial Wasteland? It came out of a comment that Governor Rhodes stated during the blizzard of '76, where he said if we don't get the National Guard out to clean off the roads, the state is going to turn into an industrial wasteland. So we just thought that sounded really good, and that was the name of the interview program. But we ended up producing this show, and it was broken out on the schedule as a separate program. We would contact the record companies and see if we could snag some of these artists as they flowed through, the various music venues around, and amazingly, we actually got permission to talk to some of these people. It was fantastic. We were playing these music from these folks, and never thought in a million years we'd actually be sitting across the table from them.
You're listening to the music of composer Philip Glass, the feature artist tonight on the Industrial Wasteland.
At first, it's almost as if you were traveling down the road and suddenly the signs and the landmarks were gone. The usual landmarks in music are ways that we can tell where we are in a piece of music, like whether it's Beethoven or the Beatles. We know kind of the ABA or the sonata forms, or whatever, the general structure, whether it's a song form or a variation form or whatever, or a fugue.
We tried to interview John Cale twice.
Really?
And both times we actually did start the interview. Both times he was so wiped out that he could not keep the interview going, and it took a lot of effort on our part to actually conduct these interviews.
Sure.
And we felt like broadcasting the tape as it was, but in the end we didn't. We didn't want the artists to look bad.
Oh, of course.
That wasn't the intent of the program. But in any case, we would get these interviews lined up. We'd go out and conduct them. We'd carry the gear ourselves. We never got paid for any of it. This was entirely volunteer. They didn't pay us for gas to go, up to Cleveland to do that. I mean, this was all just done for fun.
Broadcast experience.
It was broadcast.
Educational.
Oh, it was education. I'll tell you, we learned a lot.
I
We
bet.
learned a whole lot. But it was a great opportunity for us to just whatever you wanted to do, as long as it didn't cost the radio station anything. Just go ahead and do it. It had to reflect good on the radio station and the university, and as long as that was the only boundaries, if we wanted to do, I interviewed Kraftwerk. They were in Germany, and the record company had to pay the phone bill.
Oh, no.
Okay, that was long distance.
Yeah, back then.
But it was pretty tough. But they paid the phone bill, and they called us up, and we talked to them for a while. It was good.
Wow.
Now, I know that along with this sort of oral history, you handed me the drive earlier, some of this still exists. A lot of it just went off into the air and was never heard. But
It was only intended to be broadcast. It
Yeah.
wasn't intended to be turned into some sort of weird archive
No.
or whatever. But
So how'd you get, was it stuff that you got, or scoped tapes, or fans, or how did any of this survive?
it's a miracle, if you ask me. In 1998, I happened across a friend from high school. And she said, hey, let's come on over to my house. I'm having a Labor Day party, and you can come over and, and see, So I didn't know any of her friends. Her husband I had met before, but none of her friends. And it was nice. I sat around talking to these folks, and somebody put something on the stereo, and all of a sudden, I said, oh, I recognize this music. And then it was, that's me on the radio. I said,
wow.
That's me. That's me coming out of these speakers.
Yeah.
What the heck? So it turned out somebody I didn't know, I had never met before. They had brought like 5 cassettes or something.
Wow.
They didn't know me. I didn't know them.
No.
There's some cassettes. I went, okay. So I begged them to let me borrow the cassettes.
Talking with the listeners every evening that I've been on has been a real pleasure for me. And I'd like to thank everybody who's been giving me the phone calls this evening. Seem to be enjoying the music and just enjoying the program.
That started the whole archive thing that has now come up to about 446 compact discs worth of music.
Pretty amazing.
Music and broadcasts.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing.
Sure.
These recordings have come to me from all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing.
Fans who swap them.
They've contacted me just out of the blue, or they've contacted the radio station and said, whatever happened to that old show you used to do, this and that, and they say, oh, you want to talk to this guy, and they give me their email address or whatever, and before you know it, I was doing some more tapes. So
it's like a second job for you, probably.
well, it turned out.
Yeah,
it turned out. Yeah.
So a lot of the music on there, of course, is still, you could still find a lot of it online, CDs, vinyl, whatever. But the air checks of yourself, introducing things, getting into your head and stuff, and the other personalities, those, is there something you can do with those?
They weren't personalities, they were hosts.
They were hosts.
Okay.
That's a good distinction. So is there a way that people can hear these online somewhere? Is there a way to do something with them, or you don't?
Not that I know of.
That's all right.
I don't know that there's any way to actually listen to this material.
Do you feel like, looking back at it, that today if somebody, there's Spotify, there's all sorts of things, but to try and have sort of a cohesive piece made up of all these little pieces of music and whatnot, people don't have the attention span anymore? It wouldn't happen?
Gee, it's a totally different mindset.
Right.
You have to be wanting to discover something new, something that, people are happy with the familiar, with the common, with, I want to hear what I heard yesterday, and I want to hear it 4 more times today, sort of thing. And that's not anybody who's going to be interested in what we were doing on the show. Even XM or some of these other outlets, there's really nothing that did anything like Fresh Air did. The whole idea was to get a musical flow going, create an atmosphere, and just pour a lot of different types of music in, but make it flow so that you didn't have like a sudden jerk into like something, sudden. Well, sometimes you did it on purpose,
right,
to make a change, but generally the idea was to, here we go, we're going to get on the Fresh Air train, and it's going to take us somewhere, and we don't know what the heck is going to come out of those speakers next. Okay? And it could have been a comedy piece, it could have been a spoken word piece. Almost anything went, as long as there was some intelligence behind it guiding the listener to something interesting to listen to.
Yeah. I saw one show ended with Monty Python's Spam sketch.
Oh, sure.
In the book, there's a log sheet that it ends with that. Tell me about, I may have it wrong, Francisco's Cosmic Beam Experience. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yeah. So what happened with that? That sounds like something otherworldly. That
Francisco's Cosmic Beam Experience. Yeah. This guy was coming out of California. He had developed this instrument or learned to play this kind of unique instrument that was built on a 16-foot iron truck bed rail. Okay, and it had like 12 or 16 strings on it, and an Echoplex kind of processor that would make this thing drone on and on. Played this big metal bar, and he'd rake across these strings, and the whole room would just sit there and vibrate. Wow. And he had like 4 of these things of different sizes that he would get going, and it was just amazing music, or sounds, I guess you could say. Right. He wasn't sitting there playing some happy little...
No.
But he did have some other aspects to his music. He did have some actual pop kind of approach to some of his stuff. But the part that we were interested in was actually that cosmic beam. Boy, that was ringing everybody's bell.
Yeah, I bet.
The talk show host for NBC, Tom Snyder, was heavily into this guy, and just. He was on his show 3 or 4 times at least.
And then you got him here, right?
He did. He came in and he played at Kent State in the Kiva Auditorium. That was kind of a disaster in itself.
Well, that's what I was saying. He didn't want it taped, or what was it? I remember there was some... he had some beef, or he blew out the lights.
He blew out his
Is that what it was?
speakers. He had a kind of a cough or something. I mean, it kind of long and involved what had happened. But anyway, he did play. It was a pretty good show, but he wasn't happy with his performance. And even though we had recorded it, he wouldn't allow us to broadcast it. So that was the end of that. But in any case, he did turn up on the Star Trek, the motion picture. He's in the Star Trek motion picture soundtrack, and you can hear it in the Klingon piece. That's one of the earlier parts of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah. It has a unique sound. So anyway.
I
always wondered about that.
You always wondered about that?
That sound, yeah, because it's I'm a big Star Trek fan.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You know who directed the first Star Trek movie? Same guy who directed The Sound of Music, which you hate.
No,
so anyhow.
I don't.
Bring it back to the show. In '81, something happened, and there's even the comic strip, which you've got in the book, showing people saying, this isn't fresh air, what happened? So this show that had lasted for 10 years, all of a sudden it was gone. How did that happen?
Yeah, well, I left the show in March, I think, of '81.
Okay.
But the show continued until December 30th of 1981. December 31st was the NPR Jazz Alive special, and then after that it was it turned into a different program entirely. It was kind of like a light jazz classical thing. But what led up to that? There was a big push by NPR to redesign all of the NPR network and get their stations to quit all this multicultural, multifaceted music programs. I could probably get into an argument with several people around here about that, but it affected a lot of different radio stations, not just ours.
Right.
But they narrowed down the scope greatly from the kind of music programs or news programs or whatever. They wanted basically one kind of sound coming out, and they wanted that homogenized during your entire broadcast day, and whatever you chose, basically. And they wanted all the radio stations to sound the same.
I see.
So they wanted NPR stations to sound like a particular, a particular way.
Right.
And so that's what they basically bought into.
Interesting. Well, you were still able to leave with a lot of great memories, and didn't you meet your wife while you were on Fresh Air?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
We worked together as just members on the staff. And it wasn't until I left the radio station, I'd been gone for several months. And then, I said, hey, you want to go out on a date? I mean, there wasn't anything going on behind the scenes before that. But, yeah, it turned out that way. And we're still happily married.
Oh,
so
that worked out pretty
It was a
good.
good thing, yeah.
And so is she also on any of the old tapes you found? She must be.
Oh, yeah, she is. Yeah.
Wow, pretty amazing.
Yeah, she's not too happy about it.
No.
See, the thing is, these tapes were never intended to be analyzed and figured out. And why did he play this after that and whatever? And they were just shows, And now they're all locked in on this so-called archive thing where you can sit there and analyze. Well, how many times did you play this artist? And this. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can dig into once it's all on a computer.
There you go. Yeah, true. You can analyze tempos and all that. I noticed there was sheets where you could analyze a show and write down the tempos and all that, even back then.
Yeah,
so you were sort of ahead of your time.
We came up with that. Over the spring and summer of 1976, I ended up, taking over the entire show basically, and it was not. I was not happy with the idea I was going to be some director, so I decided I was going to be a coordinator. I was going to try to corral everybody in and try to make a little more cohesive show out of this. Because in the past, it had all been each DJ or host did whatever they wanted to do that night, and they were completely independent of the next night's show or the previous night's show.
Right.
And that was okay within a scope because everybody was all interested in a lot of interesting music. But there wasn't anything from one night to the next to keep this all together. And so I came up with some ideas along with some others. I mean, it wasn't just me. Like I said, I was a coordinator, but we needed to get more organized and make the sound a little more cohesive. So even though you're into, Irish music or folk music or something, you would get a little more out of that genre and into something else, if that was what your specialty was.
Sure.
And somebody else was into electronic music and they didn't give a whit about folk music, you'd never hear it on the show. Well, so we would try to get into this flow idea and mix the music up, but you still had total freedom over what it is that you played as long as you tried to get this concept. And in order to get that concept together, I came up with these various pieces of paper that got you to find some of these artists in the record library, listen to them, and make your own notes as to what kind of artist, what kind of music this was. And so it's interesting that those documents have survived because now you can see, well, here's what we considered like core artists for the show.
Oh, yeah.
And they were from all genres of music.
I remember one sheet had The Residents, I think, and Bob Marley and Yoko Ono.
Sure.
I remember those on one sheet.
Okay.
So.
Well, people know, Bob Marley,
Right.
Yoko Ono. Who's the Residents?
Yeah, people don't know.
Okay, who's the Residents?
Except for that one album cover.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, so there's more and more of these artists that are, out there that maybe you weren't familiar with. So now here's a sheet. Go find them so you know where to look in the library for this kind of music. Listen to it, make a note so you know what this sounds like. Right. Okay. And the whole idea is not to just throw anything up on a turntable and just play it. The whole idea was to put this all together into something that made sense. Yeah. That when you listen to it, it flowed. And if you were really, really good and you worked on your show in advance. This is not something you just walked in and started playing records, you know. People would work for, 3 or 4 hours building up, a show, the day or two before or whatever, It took a lot of time to make this music flow. You wouldn't know where one music ended and the next one started if it was really good.
Woven together.
Yeah.
There was one incident in the book, by the way, where I think it was Chuck Ruby, one of the hosts. He was playing Louis Armstrong into the Talking Heads. And either he called you or you called him, and you said, "What are you doing, man?" He said, "I don't know, it works."
Yeah.
Was that a mistake that day or something?
No.
Oh.
I just, that was Mark Block instead of,
Was it? Okay.
yeah, it wasn't, but anyway, Mark is in New York City. He lives in New York.
Worked out okay for him.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's good. But yeah, in any case, he was kind of going off the rails there. He'd gotten into some Louis Armstrong. Went from Talking Heads into Louis Armstrong, and I mean like, the high fives or something back then. And I called him up and I said, "Man, you have lost control of your show. You have no idea. It just sounds like you just slapped it on there."
Yeah.
And I didn't normally do that very often, but I did listen to other people's shows because I was a coordinator. I kind of wanted this show to kind of sound homogeneous in a way, not bland, but something that kind of had a flow to it. And so he actually thanked me later, and he said, "Yeah, I probably was going off the rails there, but." It wasn't that my idea was the only idea at all. As a matter of fact, I tried to step back multiple times and say, let it go, but somebody needed to kind of give a little guidance here and there.
Yeah, shepherd them in.
So,
Interesting. By the way, if you think about it, I've never seen Louis Armstrong and David Byrne together. They could be the same person. Just think about that. You don't know. We don't know, right? Have you ever seen them?
I've
You don't know
not.
who that is.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. You have that Louis Armstrong poster in your room. Okay. Well, anyhow,
yes,
we'll edit that part out.
Listening to National Public Radio, WKSU in Kent. We're broadcasting from Kent State University, as always, and I imagine we will continue to do so.
This is Fresh Air, your non-commercial progressive alternative on WKSU Kent.